Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and staying healthy and safe. This is Radhika here again, and this video is going to be about 5 tips and tricks for living with a spouse who is on the spectrum of narcissism, and especially who is more on the avoidant, dismissive, isolating spectrum of their behavior. um, so yeah, this video has again been prompted by um, like looking at the patterns in the clientele that I have. um, so just going into that a little bit, I do get some people who talk to me about extreme malignant narcissistic people who have been in their life. But I would say like around 60% of the people I talk to are not dealing with like either spouses or other people in their relationships or their office, etc., who are not malignant but who are there on the spectrum of narcissism, and they kind of display different tendencies of narcissism, but not to a degree where um, a person would have to leave these people for their mental or physical well-being. So they are not that damaging to the people around them, but then again, the people who are with such people need some good coping mechanisms and some good tools and tips and tricks to kind of live in that situation, but with a healthier uh, and still maintain a healthy mindset and a healthy sense of confidence and self-esteem, etc. So this video falls in that category. Do not take it to be a video where I'm telling you to stay in an abusive situation. So that's just like a small disclaimer. If it's an abusive, extreme abusive situation, you definitely have to leave. But if it's a situation where you see there are some toxic patterns or behaviors that a person is exhibiting, but they do show some sense of self awareness, and maybe it's not as bad and you don't have to leave the situation, this is for those kind of situations. So yeah, a lot of my clientele have spouses, especially who are on this spectrum, and what it means is a spouse who's not extremely bad, but they have tendencies which are, first of all, dismissive, avoidant. And what I mean by dismissive, avoidant is someone who doesn't look at things deeply. Someone who, if you go to your spouse and say, I'm not feeling good about this thing, they are not going to sit with you and look at the issue. They are going to dismiss it, saying that it's not a big problem. So this can be taken as gaslighting, but for that person, they probably don't know the term gaslighting, and they are doing it to you because it was done to them. So maybe while growing up, they did not have a family where their emotions were taken very seriously, or anyone's emotions were taken very seriously. It could be all about like doing things and achieving things and making things happen, and feelings and emotions were always kind of swept under the rug. Issues were not discussed, communication was sparse. So if you have a spouse who has grown up in this sort of an environment, it is very natural for them to grow up and kind of become a dismissive, avoidant person. So that means they don't actually look at their own emotions, and when they don't look at their own emotions, when someone else comes to them with their emotions, they don't know how to respond to it, because they frankly haven't dealt with emotions so much. So dismissive avoidant is a attachment style. It is the attachment style in which your spouse attached to their primary caregivers, and that's how they now attach to everyone else in their life, because that's how they have learned to be in relationships. So you can see that people who are dismissive avoidants, they They prefer alone time a lot. They need a lot of alone time. They always feel like relationships are a kind of a responsibility or a burden on them. They can't really do it from the heart, as people say. They do it more as a duty or a responsibility, that I have to get this done and this done, and then they feel like I have done my duty, now you leave me alone. They have that kind of an attitude. um, they might have a lot of their own hobbies and interests that they invest in. And they could be workaholics, so they love working, and they give a lot of their energy into the office, into work, and not into family so much. And their excuse a lot of times can be that I am earning for the family, so they kind of justify that in such a way. um, and then another kind of partner that I get asked a lot about is the fearful avoidant. So all of these are attachment styles that I'm talking about: dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant. So I would really recommend looking at the YouTube channel that I'm going to be linking in the description below. It's called Personal Development for Relationships, and it's run by a lady called Thias Gibson, and I think she makes a lot of sense when she talks about attachment styles and the core wounds and the core fears that different attachment styles have. So you can go and check out her videos, and definitely I think she's a very good resource in understanding your own attachment style to your partner, as well as your partner's attachment style. And it's just more self knowledge, so that's good. So yeah, the other kind I get asked a lot about is fearful avoidance. And fearful avoidance, they just have a lot of trauma around relationships. So fearful avoidance, they don't trust their partner. Even though they are in a relationship, they are not completely in. There's always a foot out the door, maybe not literally but emotionally, and even trust wise, they don't really trust anyone. The only person they trust is themselves, because very early on in life they have realized that I cannot trust human relationships. So probably they could not trust their parents, they could not trust their family, they could have been scapegoated from their family, or they could be, like the black sheep of the family. Or it could be an extremely, abusive, neglectful family. So they just have a lot of trauma around relationships in general. So every relationship for them feels extremely heavy, and it comes with a lot of baggage. And anything that you do wrong in the relationship takes them back to their early trauma, which feels extremely heavy for them to process or take on. And so a lot of fearful avoidance turn dismissive because the trauma is so heavy for them, like a rejection from a spouse, or it could even be like an just a um, perceived rejection. Say they want to take you out on a date, and the spouse says, no, I have a lot of work today. It could be taken as an extreme rejection by them, and then they will decide in their mind that I will never ask her, I will never, there's a lot of never ever kind of a talk, because it's extremely difficult for them to take rejection, to take any sort of perceived injustice against them. And that's because in their brains they have a lot of trauma regarding their earlier relationship. So that's what they project on their current relationship. And because the emotions feel so heavy, they just decide never to go there again. And so they kind of turn on the dismissive side of things. So yeah, fearful avoidants are the ones who want to keep all the control in their own hand. And mainly they want to keep the control in their own hand because they don't trust anyone, and they cannot trust anyone because they have this childhood wound where they felt extremely helpless and extremely small and minuscule, and almost like their survival was at stake because of a trust that had been broken, or because of the way they had been treated by their primary caregivers. So they really have to solve this trust issue deep down, and then they can start slowly giving up some of the control to other people in their life. So yeah, they have extreme control issues, extreme domination, kind of look down upon everyone else, because that way they feel good about themselves, because in their childhood they didn't feel good about themselves. And there's a necessity to keep everything under control, because when things are out of control they go into this extreme survivalistic mode where they don't feel safe. So if you have a partner who is on this spectrum, and I know a lot of you guys have partners on that spectrum, um, what happens is, on the surface everything looks okay. On the surface you might have a house, the partner might have a good job. In fact, they might be doing really good in their job, and because they are workaholics, and everything will be in place, like kids and everything, finance is in sorted, everything is in order. But there's a lack of love and trust and understanding and intimacy in the relationship, which the spouse of such a person feels. And I talk to a lot of such spouses, so I really understand how it feels. Because if you talk to your friends, or you talk to someone who is just looking at your life from the outside, they might feel like everything's perfect. Why are you complaining? There's nothing to complain about. So it's very hard to put into words the exact intricacies of such a relationship. But yeah, if this is you, then you probably know what I'm talking about. So yeah, here's some tips and tricks. So the first one is, determine if you really want to give it a shot with this person. um, so for me, I get a lot of clients who are willing to give a shot, and they want to try things, they want to try to do things to improve this situation. And on the other hand, I get clients who are like, it's been, like 20 years to my marriage, I have been married for 25 years, and it's always been like this, and I tried so many things, and I don't want to give it any more of my energy. So I don't know where the person who's watching this video will fall on, what side of the fence. Or, there's a third option where you really have to just leave the situation. So it depends, but I'm kind of trying to cover all three of them. So the first one is where, say, you have been married for like 4 years, or you are dating this person who you see these characteristics in, and you want to make it work because you see that it's not them who's the problem, it's probably their childhood or the conditioning that they have had with their previous relationships that has made them this way, or the baggage, as we say. So if you want to make an effort, then these are the tips. So the first one is, find an activity that both of you can be interested in. Or if you have a family with this person, that your kids or whoever is in the close circle, they can do together. So find an activity. If it's something mental, then it's even better, because a lot of dismissive avoidants are extremely mental, so they live in their, and even fearful avoidants. So these people spend a lot of time in their heads, and they assume things, so they don't communicate, but they assume. So they look at micro expressions, they'll listen to your tone of voice, they'll like, they look at the things you are doing even without you knowing they're looking at you, and they'll make up stories in their head, because they don't want to communicate, but still they want to be in this bond with you. So what you have to do is, you have to use their mental capacities to kind of engage them in an activity with you. So it could be like playing some board games or trivial pursuit, or even some games where you guys are trying to communicate to each other. Like any game that involves communication is going to help, because then this person will get more and more open to be um, to be in communication with you. Then the next thing is build family time. Like if you're married to this person who's like a workaholic who doesn't give you enough time, etc., build family time into the schedule. So usually these people are very good at following schedules because they like that, they like structure, they like knowing this is the time this should happen, this is the time this should happen. It creates a sense of safety for them. So you can try to build some family time into the schedule, and when it's a scheduled thing they will really like to participate and interact, hopefully, with you in the schedule. And then again, if you have kids, because most of the people who I talk to have kids, but if you don't, that's okay, this might not apply to you. But if you have kids or if you have pets, then assign some of the if you have kids, assign some of the teaching responsibilities to this person so that they give some dedicated time to your child as well, because that's a big complaint that they don't spend enough time with the kid, and the kid needs time with them. So you can basically turn this time into like study time, or because they usually don't want to do play time. So yeah, you can do that. If you have pets, then again you guys can go on walks together, etc. So these are some tips on how you can engage them more if you are the ones in the section where you are willing to make efforts. Then the second section is if you kind of have given up and you have been in this relationship for a long time and now you're like, I'm done. I still want to stay in the relationship, but I'm done trying to make an effort. Then the answer is pretty simple. You have to kind of leave them alone and let them do things that they like to do, and just kind of be happy to see them happy in their own world, and just understand and accept uh, the reality of your situation, which is that you probably might not have the level of intimacy that you want to have with them. And then it's your call if you still want to stay in that relationship with the level of intimacy that you have, or you want to, like, look for some other options. So yeah, and if you decide to remain in this case, it's definitely recommended that you start developing your own interests outside of this person or their interests, and you spend more time with your kids if you have kids involved, and you guys can make your own little world and keep the door open for your spouse to come in if they want to come in. And if they have extreme narcissistic tendencies where even if they come into your little world and little life they kind of cause destruction, then you have to definitely keep your boundaries strong and tell this person that if you want to participate, you have to agree to these rules. You cannot bully the kids, or you cannot call them names, or you cannot, always try to prove that you are the smartest one, etc. Whatever the situations are. So yeah, so, and I know this situation actually requires a lot of patience, and it might feel like you are giving up on a part of your life, but i would I would say that the intimacy that you are expecting from this person can definitely be obtained from another source. Like you can have a close friend whom you talk to on a daily basis. Make that a ritual where you call your best friend every other week or every week and you talk to that person. Or you can seek counseling. A therapist can be your friend and you can talk to the therapist, but do take care of this uh, aspect of your life where you feel unfulfilled, because whichever aspect of your life you feel unfulfilled, it's good to be aware of it, and then secondly it's good to kind of use a coping mechanism so that you don't feel empty in that aspect. Yeah, and then the last option is kind of to look elsewhere to find what you want in life. And this is much easier if you are not married to this person, if you're just dating and in the dating phase you realize this pattern that you see in this person. So that would kind of give you an easier third option, where you, if you don't love this person, you can look for other options if you're not willing to, like, invest more into it. So yeah, that was this video. I hope this helped you in some way, and as always, I wish you all a lot of love and a lot of light. Thank you. Bye.